Okay, now that we've learned how to use our actions panel, this was just our like warm-up testing. We can go ahead and delete that. We don't need it. So here we have our grid saved as guides. We're going to go ahead and open the layers panel and create a new layer that we're going to name sketch. So create a new layer and name it sketch. And then we're going to go into file, place, and we're going to choose our sketch and we're going to place it. And now you see it loads up here on my cursor. Just load it until I click, it's not going to do anything. So I can choose how big I want my sketch to come into my design. So I'm going to start in my upper left-hand corner, hold my shift key down, and I'm going to drag it all the way across and then just make it fit the whole page. And say, okay. And now I can see my sketch on my grid. And so this is now in my sketch layer, as you can see. I'm going to pull that sketch layer to the bottom. But the reason it's so great to have your grid as guides is look at how it lays right over your sketch. So you're going to get to see your grid easily. It's not interfering anything. Now you can see this grid I have here is 1, 2, 3, 4 times bigger than my sketching paper grid. So that's telling me that I'm going to need to make a smaller grid if I want to get into those smaller elements. But I might not. I mean, I can look and see how big are my elements on my page. Will this size grid work, or do I need a smaller one? So clearly my big shapes would work with this grid. And I think honestly, just about everything might work with this grid, with the scale grid, but I think it's just maybe a little too big. I might even want to go maybe not as small as the sketch paper grid, but maybe half the size of this grid. So right now these are 100 pixel modules. So I think I'm going to want to go down to 50 pixel modules. So that's a choice I can make and change out my grid. So that's something you're going to have to decide after you bring your sketch in, what scale grid you're going to need to build your design on. Okay. And then once you have this sketch where you want it, of course, lock it in so it doesn't move. And then above it is going to be your art layer. Okay. And that's where we're going to be working on the art layer. So I'm going to make another grid, but for the moment, just to kind of, for demo purposes, I'm going to show you how do we then apply moving into taking a sketch into Illustrator and kind of understanding that we're going to tighten it up now in Illustrator. It's not going to match perfectly, and that's okay. We just want a guideline of how we're going. So again, we're going to work with our shapes tool. I'm going to bring in the rectangle tool. And for me, I'm going to start down here, or actually, take it back. I'm going to use my option with the square so that I can build it and hold my shift key down so I can build it from the center so I can get an idea of the shape of my overall design. I'm going to make my line a bright color so I can see it right now. And I'm going to bring up the stroke also so you can see it. And here's my actions. I'm going to go ahead and start again with my surface area. So here's using the top clockwise, pulling. Now I have my design here, and I can kind of figure out what is the right scale. So I'm going to move it into where I think I want it. And again, I want to lock it in to my grid, even though my design, my sketch might not be perfectly matching this grid. That's okay. So I'm kind of zooming in, looking, and it's pretty close. So that's good. It's a little wider, but that's okay. I'm not too worried. I can follow it. So now I'm going to go ahead and build my sidewalls. Just going to kind of start building my main shape. And I need 2 of these that are visible. So I'm just going to right away make 2 squares the same size. And one's going to be the right. And I'm going to pop that into position and realize, oh yeah, that's quite a bit too big. That's okay though. And these are more rectangles than also I'm realizing, you know what? I don't want to start with a square. I want to start with more of a rectangle to give me a better scale of what I'm doing. So I'm going to go more like this. And play with this scale wise. Locking it in. And then this one is going to be right. Oop, undo. Wrong button. There we go. Make sure you're grabbing the right thing. And you know what I'm going to do is, I'm going to delete that bottom one. We'll come back and remake it. I accidentally hit it and messed it up. So there's my right. Scale it in. I'm not holding my shift key down. I'm just scaling it and bringing it onto my grid. So same thing here. I'm going to adjust it and bring it on to my grid, where I need it. And then, keep building by following the shapes of your design. So I'm going to grab these 2 and just pull them up equally so that they're at the height I want. Okay, so now I have these 2 rectangles where I want them. And then I can go in and say, okay, I'm going to start building my top square. So this is going to be my top clockwise. Adjust the scale to fit the design. And I'm locking it into the grid. And then I have a smaller square. I'm just building each square by square. What I need. Build another square, a little smaller. Right. Then I can option shift and grab this square.
Do we have to send you test designs on Slack?
For the first exercise, yeah, just that you use the just so that you use the actions and set up your grid. That one is the one you need to send to Slack.
I'm still trying to set up a grid, but it's.
I know, we're going to come back and do it. All right. So, and you can do this, I have it with outlines, you can do it with solid shapes, you can do it with, however you want to build. I like to draw it with outlines so that I can see what I'm doing. And, these are kind of big. Again, I have to some of these I haven't done that where I brought them on the inside, and that helps you once you get these to make sure you're building them with the lines going on the inside so that you can keep better control of your building with the lines, not the fill of the line. So keep going, and you're going to be building with each shape, and then you can start connecting those shapes. Then building the side walls and so on and so forth. When you have these curved elements, again, you're going to draw those on top separately as a unique item. But first I would build all of your squares and rectangles and get those all in. And, you know, we will be using, I have curves in mind too, which again is like, I start off with building those shapes. We know how to build multiple shapes. So we know like a curve is a rectangle and a circle together, right? So if we take these two shapes, come over here so we can see, you know, get them lined up. And then go to Pathfinder, Unite. So here's my window. I have all these arched windows, and I would do the same thing with my window, is turn it to a right and then bring my windows in and scale my windows. Okay. All right. I'm going to stop here, and then we're going to go back and do the grid one more time.